To this day, the Nintendo Switch still surprises me. Because just when we think there is no way The Witcher 3 can run on the Switch, The Witcher 3 gets announced for the Switch. What? You're telling me a game that looks like this, and is this big, can run on this? What can't the Switch run? So as third-party developers continue to run out of excuses, today I'm going to list a few third-party games that I would love to see ported over to the Switch. Now obviously the ideal scenario is to port everything known to man to the Switch, but let's stick within the realm of reason. You're not going to see God of War on the Switch, you're not going to see Tron Evolution on the Switch, you're not going to see Halo on the Switch. Actually, you know what? Stick around. Let's talk about the third-party games that the Nintendo Switch absolutely needs. Now, I did just mention and kind of joke about the possibility of seeing Master Chief on the Nintendo Switch, and I said that because we're already seeing Microsoft port their smaller Xbox One games to the Switch, like Cuphead. I'm so glad I didn't buy Cuphead on Xbox because I knew I just had to play it on the Switch. So I bought it there, and I still haven't beaten it because it's hard as shit. Not only that, but the Switch is also getting the better version of Super Lucky's Tale. It's not even listed on Xbox yet. How is this a thing? With that in mind, there are other Xbox games that could potentially come to the Switch, like Battletoads, which I just now thought of but don't really care about. In the meantime, put Banjo Kazooie on that Switch. Yeah, Banjo Kazooie is in Smash now, guys. Let's celebrate by playing the first and maybe second game in handheld mode. This is what dreams are made of. What more is there to say about Banjo Kazooie other than it is the gold standard for 3D platforming on the Nintendo 64? Don't at me, Mario 64 fans. And while we're on the topic of games made by Rare, a lot of people have wished for the Rare Replay collection to come to the Switch as well. But I think it's more realistic to believe this would only happen to the Banjo Kazooie games, and maybe even Conker, who knows. I say that because some of the games on Rare Replay require Xbox 360 backwards compatibility, since they are Xbox 360 games or ports, like Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie. Getting an Xbox 360 emulator to work on the Switch would require some additional effort, but if Microsoft can do it, then be my guest. And speaking of Microsoft, there is no better game to put on the Switch than Ori and the Blind Forest, and maybe even its sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Because my god, Ori and the Blind Forest is amazing. I honestly can't think of another game that can amaze you with its game design while also making you ugly cry at the music, visuals, and story. Seriously, Ori and the Blind Forest is the definition of a gem that belongs in a museum. When I first played it, I thought it was going to be better in the art and music department than in the gameplay department. And fortunately, it excels in both departments. It's amazing. This game would make a great addition to the Switch library considering it's a 2D platformer, and I don't imagine it would take many tweaks to get it running on the system. And while you're at it, bring the sequel to the Switch. You got plenty of time, Microsoft. A lot of you are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't care. Put Call of Duty on the Switch. Honestly, how did the Wii U get 2 Call of Duty games while the Switch has none? What sense does that make? Now, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Call of Duty Mobile on Switch, but I picture a greater scenario where we see a Modern Warfare trailer in the next Nintendo Direct. That would be awesome. I've been watching so much multiplayer footage of this game, it's kinda crazy. That said, I know these later games have required a little bit too much processing power to get them on Switch, so Activision, if you can, just port the original Modern Warfare trilogy. It's the best trilogy in the entire series since Black Ops f***ed everything up, so playing them on Switch would be a welcome treat. But hey, if The Witcher 3 can run on Switch, I'm sure you could find a way to put the next Modern Warfare on Switch. Could you try that for me, Infinity Ward? Pretty please? Another franchise I've wanted to see on Switch is Assassin's Creed, and I just got my wish granted this May. Try again, Ubisoft. Yeah, 3 isn't terrible, but it really makes you want the better Assassin's Creed games to come to Switch. The go-to request for this would probably be the Ezio Collection, because Ezio is everyone's favorite, and his trilogy is filled with some of the best games in the series. However, I'm in the camp that would massively prefer Black Flag to the Ezio Collection. I just love the tropical setting of this game, and the ship combat is just mwah. Plus, it was on the Wii U, and if all Ubisoft did for Assassin's Creed 3's Switch version was port the Wii U version, then I wouldn't care if they did the same exact thing for Black Flag. Because in spite of all the technical issues the Switch port of 3 has, I would forgive those more if the game was Black Flag. Did I mention I love Black Flag? I also wouldn't be against Switch ports of Origins and Odyssey if they can conjure those up, because these games brought new life into Assassin's Creed as the franchise was just getting really stale. People hate me for saying this, but I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey is better than 2. Really though, play Odyssey and then play 2 right after. You'll see what I mean. This next game is kind of random, but given recent circumstances, it is possible that it could come to the Switch. Have you met my friend Alan Wake? If you haven't heard of Alan Wake, congratulations, you're like most of the population. However, you should also be ashamed of yourself because Alan Wake is f***ing amazing. It was originally developed as an Xbox 360 exclusive in 2010 and was later ported to the PC soon after. Talks of a sequel have been on and off, but recently the developers at Remedy Entertainment have gotten the publishing rights to the series back from Microsoft, which is exciting. This could not only mean we'll finally get a sequel after almost 10 years, but maybe even remasters of the game ported to Xbox One, PS4, and yes, Nintendo Switch. Basically, Alan Wake is a survival horror shooter with a heavy emphasis on storytelling, because you play as an author named, Alan Wake, who finds himself trapped within a horror story he wrote and can't seem to remember writing. That's really oversimplifying it though, because the story in this game alone makes it worth playing, and more people need to experience it, which is why I hope to see it come to more platforms, including the Switch. This next game or game collection was published by a company who gave a stupid-ass reason for not supporting the Switch. So I ask you this, EA. Mass Effect Trilogy when? Before this generation, EA were known for publishing what might be the greatest sci-fi RPG trilogy of all time, even though the ending of 3 wasn't so hot. So what better way to wash the bad taste of Anthem and Andromeda out of our mouths than with an enhanced port of the Mass Effect trilogy? This could honestly be released on not just the Switch, but the PS4 and Xbox One as well. What can't be said about the Mass Effect trilogy that hasn't already been said before? The masterminds at BioWare have created a game series that will stand the test of time as one of the best Western RPG series in gaming, with an engaging story and fun gameplay. It has some flaws, sure, but the positives far outweigh the negatives here. I've honestly only played through the trilogy once, and I would love to experience it again, except in the short 15-minute bursts of free time I have as a young adult nowadays. The only console you could do that with is a Nintendo Switch. You see the point I'm trying to make here, EA? And while we're on the topic of RPGs, I'm surprised we haven't seen anything regarding Fallout in any way, shape, or form on the Switch. Probably the most likely candidate to get a Switch port is Fallout 4, since it is the most recent and not terrible game in the series. Though a lot of people have asked for ports of Fallout 3 and New Vegas since they are looked upon more favorably. I think if you're going to see Fallout 3 and New Vegas on the Switch at all, it'll come with ports or remasters on the PS4 and Xbox One as well. I don't know, I kinda just think it would be random to release 3 and New Vegas on the Switch only, but Stranger Games have been ported to the Switch only, so nothing is impossible. But hey, like everything else on this list, I'm not against any of these games coming to the Switch. They're all great RPGs in their own right, especially New Vegas, so it would be cool to start yet another Fallout playthrough on the Nintendo Switch. In the meantime, at least we're getting the Outer Worlds, so I'll be satisfied either way. Now then, I've talked mostly about games that have already been released, with the exception of Modern Warfare, which is coming out pretty soon. But like I mentioned earlier, The Witcher 3 being released on the Switch really opened my eyes to the possibility of what is possible on the Switch, which made me think of another game coming out from the same developers as The Witcher. Can you take a guess?
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I can hear you guys all the way from here. But there's no way Cyberpunk could run on the Switch. It's practically a next-gen game. Well, it's coming out on the PS4 and Xbox One, so it's still technically current gen, and it's also first person, meaning they're probably gonna do that thing where it only renders what you're seeing in front of you and not the whole world around you. I'm not a game developer, but that's just my guess. Truth be told, you can give me all the excuses in the world as to why there's no way in hell this game is coming to Switch. But the fact of the matter is, we don't know. Let's look back at The Witcher 3, because I knew a Switch port of this game was just going to be downright impossible. They sure proved me wrong though, didn't they? When this was announced, it made me reconsider what is and isn't possible on the Nintendo Switch. It seems to me now that the only thing holding back developers and publishers from putting their games on the Switch is their commitment, their desire to find out how they can achieve a Switch port of their next game. The fact that the developers at CD Projekt Red are bothering to put The Witcher 3 on the Switch to begin with shows me that they're interested in working on that technology in the future. If Cyberpunk 2077 does come out on the Switch, I think it'll be sometime after it releases on other platforms, or it'll be exclusive to the Switch Pro, if that's real, so until then, I'm gonna dream big. But those are just a few of the third-party games that I would love to see ported over to the Nintendo Switch. What other games do you want to see ported over? Let me know in the comment section down below. I know a lot of you answered this question on Twitter. I got a lot of really good responses that I'll be displaying right now, but you know what? In the meantime, I think I'm going to play some Modern Warfare on my Nintendo Switch. A guy can dream, can't he? Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, click that thumbs up button as it really helps me out. And if you are new, subscribe and hit that notification bell to know when I upload a new video. Special thanks to Stephanie for supporting me on Patreon as well. Until next time, this is FerrisWheelPro, and I'll see you on the next ride.